Before most people hit snooze for the second time, successful people have already made decisions that shape their entire day. The hours before 9 a.m. aren't just quiet, they're powerful. And what happens in that window often determines who wins the day and who spends it reacting. What successful people do before 9 a.m. Before the world fully wakes up, before inboxes overflow, notifications buzz, and schedules tighten, successful people are already laying the foundation for the day. Not with frantic urgency, but with intention. The hours before 9 a.m. aren't about doing more, they're about doing what matters most, while the mind is still clear and the world is still quiet. They wake up earlier than they strictly need to. Not because early rising is magical, but because it buys them something priceless: control. Control over their time, their focus, and their energy. The day hasn't started demanding things yet, so they begin by choosing what the day will mean. Most successful people start with stillness. This might be meditation, prayer, deep breathing, or simply sitting in silence with a cup of coffee. In those moments, they're not reacting, they're centering themselves. They're deciding who they want to be today before the world tries to decide for them. Next comes movement. Exercise, stretching, yoga, or a brisk walk. Nothing extreme is required. The goal isn't just fitness, it's momentum. Moving the body wakes up the mind, sharpens focus, and signals to the brain that the day has begun with purpose. Even 15 to 30 minutes can shift their entire mental state. Then, they focus on clarity. Successful people don't start the day drowning in emails or social media. Instead, they review their priorities. They ask simple but powerful questions: what truly matters today? What one thing, if done well, would make today a success? They often write, journaling, planning, or outlining goals. Writing turns vague intentions into concrete direction. It's how they transform ambition into action. Many also invest time in learning. Reading a few pages of a book, listening to an audiobook, or reflecting on new ideas keeps their mind growing. Before they produce value for the world, they first add value to themselves. Breakfast, when it happens, is intentional too. Not rushed, not mindless. It's fuel, not filler. And importantly, it's often screen-free. Successful people guard their attention fiercely in the morning because they know attention is a finite resource. By the time 9 a.m. arrives, they've already won a small victory. Strengthened their mindset, clarified the direction, invested in their body and mind. They don't wait for motivation to show up. They create it. The secret isn't waking up at 5 a.m. or following a rigid routine. The real difference is this: successful people design their mornings instead of surrendering them. And by doing so, they quietly shape the rest of their lives, one focused morning at a time. The Lamplighter. Before dawn, there was a small village at the edge of a mountain. Every morning, a bell rang at the summit at exactly 9 a.m. When it rang, the gates of the village opened, and everyone rushed out to work, trade, and travel. But few noticed the lamplighter. Long before the bell, while the village still slept, the lamplighter climbed the narrow path alone. He carried no heavy tools, only a small flame protected by glass. As he walked, he lit lanterns along the road, one by the well, one at the crossroads, one near the steep edge where travelers often stumbled. No one thanked him. Most villagers never even saw him. By the time they began their journey, the lamps were already burning, and the path already clear. One morning, a traveler asked him, "Why do you come so early when no one is here?" The lamplighter smiled. "Because darkness is easiest to shape before the crowd arrives." When the bell rang at 9 a.m., the village poured out as usual, moving quickly, confidently, unaware of how many wrong turns had been quietly removed for them. And the lamplighter, he was already descending the mountain, his work complete, while others were just beginning their climb. The moral: those who prepare in silence don't need to rush in daylight. What you do before the world wakes often decides how smoothly the journey unfolds. The Clock Keeper. At the edge of a wide desert stood an ancient clock tower. No one knew who built it, only that every day, without fail, the clock struck 9 and the desert town came alive. Market stalls opened, caravans departed, contracts were signed, arguments began, and fortunes were chased. To the townspeople, the day started at 9. But the tower had a keeper. His name was never spoken aloud. He lived in a narrow stone room inside the tower, halfway between the ground and the great bell. Most believed the tower ran on its own. Some even forgot a keeper existed at all. Long before dawn, while the town slept and the desert air was cool, the keeper rose. He didn't rush. He washed his face, lit a small oil lamp, and climbed the spiral stairs step by step. Each stair creaked differently. He knew every sound, every crack in the stone. By the time he reached the gears, his breathing was steady and his mind quiet. The clock was enormous, dozens of interlocking wheels, chains, and counterweights. If even one was neglected, the bell would ring late, or not at all. And if the bell failed, chaos followed. Caravans missed water stops. Markets clashed. Agreements collapsed. The keeper inspected each gear carefully. Some mornings, sand had crept in overnight. Other mornings, a gear was slightly off balance. He never complained. He simply cleaned, adjusted, and aligned. When something was worn, he replaced it before it broke. When a chain weakened, he reinforced it quietly. As he worked, the desert slowly brightened outside the narrow windows. The sun rose, indifferent to the town below. When the clock was ready, the keeper wound the mechanism and stepped back. He didn't wait for praise. He didn't announce success. He simply listened. Tick, tick, tick. Satisfied, he descended the tower and returned to his room before anyone stirred. At 9, the bell rang, strong, clear, unquestionable. The town erupted into motion. One day, a young apprentice merchant noticed something strange. No matter how early he arrived at the market, no matter how prepared he thought he was, someone always seemed ahead of him, calmer, sharper, already positioned. Curious, he woke earlier than usual. Then earlier still. One morning, before sunrise, he noticed a faint light high in the clock tower. The next day, he climbed. He found the keeper seated on the stone floor, drinking tea in silence. "Why do you work when no one sees you?" the apprentice asked. "Why not wait until the town is awake?" The keeper looked at the clock above them. "Because when the bell rings," he said softly, "it's too late to fix the gears." The apprentice frowned. "But the town believes the day begins at 9. The keeper smiled. "The bell only announces what was decided hours earlier." The apprentice began rising early after that. Not to climb the tower, but to prepare his own work, planning routes, reviewing contracts, sharpening judgment while the world slept. Months later, others noticed his success and asked for his secret. He never mentioned the keeper. He simply said, "I start before the bell." And high above the town, every morning, the clock struck 9, perfectly on time, because someone had already done the quiet work when no one was watching. Meaning, the world applauds the bell, but power belongs to those who tend the gears before it rings. The stonemason. Before the river reached the city, it passed through a narrow valley where an old stone bridge stood. The bridge was unremarkable, no carvings, no statues, no name etched into its sides. Travelers crossed it every day without a second thought. To them, it was simply there, as dependable as the sunrise. What few noticed was the stonemason. He arrived before dawn, every morning, when the valley was still wrapped in mist and the river spoke softly to itself. He carried a small hammer, a chisel worn smooth by years of use, and a cloth for wiping dust from stone. No audience ever gathered. No footsteps followed him. He inspected the bridge inch by inch. A hairline crack near the eastern arch. Loose mortar beneath the center stones. A place where water had begun to gnaw, patiently, at the foundation. He worked slowly, never aggressively, never in a way that changed the bridge's appearance. His repairs were subtle, so precise that no one could tell where his hands had been. By the time the first birds cried out to the sun, he stepped back, nodded once, and left. When the city awoke, carts thundered across the bridge. Merchants argued, soldiers marched, children ran. The bridge held them all without complaint. One season, heavy rains came. The river swelled, furious and fast. Downstream, bridges cracked and collapsed. Stones shattered. People shouted and scrambled for safety. But the old bridge stood. Water clawed at it, tested it, searched for weakness, and found none. After the flood receded, the city celebrated the bridge as if it were a miracle. They spoke of ancient builders, forgotten techniques, divine favor. Musicians played near it. Artists painted it. Officials argued about how to protect it for the future. No one mentioned the stonemason. Until one morning, a child saw him leaving before sunrise. "Why do you fix something that isn't broken?" the child asked. The mason paused, resting his hand on the cool stone. "Because things don't break all at once," he said. "They break quietly, long before anyone notices." The child thought about this. Years later, when the mason no longer came and the bridge still stood strong, the child, now grown, began waking early too. Not to repair stone, but to tend unseen cracks in his own life, habits, focus, discipline, direction. Others wondered why he seemed steady when storms came. He never spoke of the bridge. He simply smiled and said, "I work before the weight arrives." The lesson: most people notice strength when it's tested. The wise build it beforehand, in silence, when no one is watching. Success doesn't begin at 9 a.m., it's already in motion long before the day officially starts. It's built in the quiet moments when no one is watching, in the choices you make before the world asks anything of you. You don't need a perfect routine or earlier alarms, just intention. Own your morning, even in small ways, and you'll find that the rest of the day begins to work for you, not against you.